Welcome to the Trust and Believe NOMADCAST, a podcast that covers a wide range of topics. So come chill with us on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Here's your host, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, welcome everybody to episode 95. Episode 95 of the Trust and Believe NOMADCAST. I'm your host, Mr. Anderson. Thank you for tuning in today here on the 14th of April, 2022. And today is what? Thursday. Not a normal Thursday. Today is Gym Shoe Stories on a Thursday. So I'll get into that. But I thank you guys for tuning in, allowing me to hang out with you today via the video, via the audio, and however you are consuming this NOMADCAST. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys again. Thank you. All right, so today we're going to talk about an iconic shoe, a shoe that resonates. When I think about this shoe, thinking about it as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, seeing a lot of the OGs in the neighborhood, seeing a lot of cats walking around with this shoe. And I was like, just like any other Detroiter back in those days, and not even Detroit, a lot of those urban cities back in those days, we were captivated by fashion. We were captivated by the gold chains and the jackets and the gym shoes and all these things. The funny thing about it, a lot of folks that was wearing these items that I just mentioned were not upstanding citizens. They was doing other things they shouldn't have been doing. A lot of them are either incarcerated now, no longer here, or changed their whole life around, which is good. But that's neither here or there. So today I'm going to talk about, as you see in the thumbnail here, the Adidas Concord, a 1980s classic shoe. Not only that, it's a Detroit classic, because I only can speak from the city I grew up in as it relates to rocking these shoes. And I know the New Yorkers and the Baltimores and the Bostons, they were big on Adidas back in the day. And a lot of people don't know, Detroit, we took a lot of our fashion from New York, because we used to look in the magazines and see what Run DMC was wearing, and seeing what other hip-hoppers were wearing, some of the break dancers were wearing. So we took some of those fashions, kind of put a little twist on it, and made it Detroit, if you will. All right, so let's go ahead and without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the Adidas Concord. Beautiful shoe, and again, just like anything else, all of our gym shoe stories on a Thursday, I'll break it down. I'll talk about the history. I'll talk about the specs. I'll talk about the nostalgic memories. I'll talk about the comfort level, and then we'll close the episode out. But again, today, the Adidas Concord. So let's go ahead and dive into the history of the Adidas Concord. The Adidas Concord was released in France in 1983. So a lot of people don't realize, or they even do realize, everyone's sneaker intelligence level is different. So Adidas in those early 80s, Adidas is from Germany, a German-based company, right, for over 100 years. A lot of those early 80s Adidas were released in Germany, was released in France, released in Asia, Japan, Korea, so on and so forth. And when those shoes, those early 80s Adidas were released, basketball, tennis, running, whatever, the shoe, which actually was designed for the intended purpose of running, basketball, whatever, whoever bought those shoes in those countries back in those days, they wore the shoe for its intended purpose. Basketball, tennis, baseball, whatever. The funny thing about it, the ironic thing about it, when those shoes migrated over to the States in the early 80s, we played ball in them, but we mostly rocked them on a regular. We ran in them, but we mostly rocked it on a regular. Played tennis in them, so on and so forth. You get the story. Another historical note, the Adidas Concord, the shoe's production was discontinued after only 3 years, and which is kind of surprising, because at the time, the Adidas Concord was one of the most popular basketball shoes in the market. And I would tell you, just to get a sidetrack here from history, in my opinion, Damon Anderson, in my humble opinion, you had all these Adidas brands, these Adidas silhouettes, pre-1980s and after the 1980s. But if we're looking at, say, 1979 to, say, 1984, there were three pillars of excellence, in my opinion, three pillars of excellence when it came to Adidas early 80s. And I would love for someone to comment and tell me their position when I make this comment. Again, this is my comment, Damon Anderson. There were 3 pillars of excellence when it came to early 80s Adidas classic material. You had the Adidas Form, and I actually did an episode on the Form, episode 16, 14 October 2021, and the Adidas Top 10. I did an episode on that, episode 62, 20 January 22, and the Adidas Concord. Three pillars of excellence: the Adidas Form, the Top 10s, and the Adidas Concord. That's just my little history right there. Let's also get back to history. The Adidas Concord was available as a high top, also available as a mid cut, which us Detroiters, we call 3/4. All right, so let's get into the specs of it. Before we get into the specs, let's just look at this shoe. Let's just admire this shoe. And now we're not idolizing the shoe. We're not lusting. We're just looking at it. It's a beautiful design shoe. And the only thing about this episode, usually I provide like a sketch as I go through the episode, the original design, the original tint. I couldn't find anybody who actually sat and cultivated, shaped, developed this shoe at all. I have no clue who did it, and I'm definitely going to keep searching because I want to freaking know. But again, the Adidas Concord, we talk about the Velcro strap right here. Before we even unloosen the strap, look at that. Typical early 80s Adidas. Got the Adidas logo on there, right? Unloosen the strap at the top of the collar. Now, us Detroit guys and a lot of the East Coast cats, we used to unloosen the strap if we was rocking these on the regular. Loosen the strap and you let your jeans kind of nest in between the strap, right? The strap and the hook. Or you could just rock these with shorts, which was another phenomenal classic, if you will. Look at the tongue. Typical 80s era Adidas tongue. Now, you notice it says Adidas Concord. A lot of those early 80s Adidas, the tongue piece was always vertical. It was rarely horizontal, right? You look at the top 10s and forms, it was all vertical. And look at that. That's gold as well. Another thing that people don't realize, Adidas actually patented the D-ring, but they called it a rapid lacing system, which is these gold little rings here. Now, us military folks, we know these as D-rings, but actually Adidas but patented that as well in 1973. Again, a phenomenal shoe. I could take the strap, hook it back up, bam. Now, you playing basketball, you probably want this strapped up for your ankles, right? Got to get the ankle support. Now, speaking of ankle support, right by the collar in the ankle area, it's padded. Now, it's not padded as much as the original one. And those of us that had that original one that came out in the early 80s, the padding was a little thicker. These are actually the Concord 2.0s. As you can see here, here's a picture of the originals. Now, you look at Adidas in the back. See the Adidas logo in the behind right here? This is patent leather, ladies and gentlemen. Patent leather. Adidas Concord. One thing I want to say, a lot of people say, well, how come they stealing that from Nike? The Adidas Concord is the original owner of the nomenclature Concord. I know the Jordans had the Concords back in the day, and we didn't call those Concords. We called them patent leather J's. But that's neither here or there. That's for a lesson for all you new folks, right? New sneakerheads. Patent leather design. Look at the toe box. The toe box is similar to a lot of the Adidas brands in those early 80s. Top 10s, forms, so on and so forth. Look at the bottom. Beautiful bottom. Love these freaking shoes, man. And all the Adidas silhouettes, this is actually, it could be a top 10 Adidas. The only thing is missing, this difference with the top 10, the collar was different and the top 10s didn't have a strap. Look at that. Beautiful, iconic shoe. Again, we talk about the Adidas rectangle down here. Us Detroiters, we used to take a highlighter and highlight that part. I guess just to let people know, hey, these are Adidas, even though you see Adidas all over the place. Old school 3 stripes with the little ridges right here and the holes in between the stripes. Classic. Got the little suede piece right up here on the toe box. A phenomenal shoe, ladies and gentlemen. 1983, the Adidas Concord. So those were the specs there. So let's talk about nostalgic memories. I would tell you, the first time I saw a pair of Adidas Concords, they were similar to this photo here. I remember it was a cat that I was going to school with in St. Bridget in Detroit, which is no longer there. The school is there, but the title's not there. I think his name was Robert. And you know, back in the day, whenever we had a fresh outfit or we had something to wear, I think it was Blue Jean Day because we had traditional Catholic school uniforms. It's like a baby blue shirt and dark blue pants. And so whenever they had Blue Jean Day, you would pay 50 cents, 75 cents to wear blue jeans, right? And that money would go to a fund, if you will. And so Robert got up one day. He was wearing those Concords, and I thought they was top tens because he had his pants were covering the collar. But when he got up, you know, I was always admired by people's shoes. I didn't really care about the person. I was looking at the type of shoes they were. Well, I cared about them, but you gotta understand what I during my time. But when he got up, his pants leg raised up, and I was like, "Yo, what is those?" And he was like, "Yeah, these are the new snakeskin Concords." But he had the high top version of them, and the collar's a little bit bigger. And I was like, "Wow, those are dope, man." Now, speaking of dope, man, those were the main people that were wearing those Adidas back in the day. Forms, top 10, shell toes. It was always people that were not the most positive people in your neighborhoods, and these were the people that were doing things that was unconstructive. They were making money. They were living the America dream. But the problem was that dream became a nightmare for a lot of those folks, because a lot of those folks I'm talking about are not here no more. They either incarcerated or hopefully they changed their life around. Some of them I still talk to this day. But nonetheless, the Adidas Concord is a shoe. Again, I can't even tell you what this shoe means to a person like me growing up in that era. And they re-released these in 2016, and I bought them. As you can see here, I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and here's a picture I took once I got them out the mailbox. I was so happy. The Adidas Concord, and I was wearing these in Japan for a little bit, and it was a couple guys on my unit that was, from Detroit, so they already knew. They was like, "Yo, you got the Concord." You know what I'm saying? But I'm telling you, man, this is a classic shoe, and here's other silhouettes as well. This shoe has been around, ladies and gentlemen, since 1983, and it continues to stand the test of time. Talking about the test of time, the last time I wore these, I think was 2016, 2017. I have a lot of these shoes, man, and the problem is I don't wear a lot of these shoes, and I need to start because I don't want to be like some of those videos, and as soon as they put a shoe on that they didn't wear for like 5 or 6 years, and then the soles start messing up. But again, this is another classic staple, a classic example of a classic shoe from a classic company, Adidas Concord. So let's talk about nostalgic memories. Again, I talked about, the first time I saw these with Robert sharpening his pencil and doing all that. I tell you, man, it was just a time of my life. I will always talk about Detroit fashion, 1980s fashion. Again, we took a lot of that fashion from New York and Philly and Baltimore and all these other East Coast places and put our own little twist on it. But it was a beautiful time, man. It was the time where a lot of those guys and gals that had these shoes, unfortunately, they didn't keep them long because you know how it is. A person to see another person with a fresh shoe, instead of saying, "I'm going to get a paper route" or "I'm going to do something to get these shoes," they would just, undo harm on a person, which is unfortunate. But that's just the way it was back then. It was a sad case. I've seen unfortunately seen a lot of cats get their heads cracked over shoes like these back in the days. I tell you, man, unfortunate set of circumstances. But again, the memories of this particular shoe, I can't even begin to put into words. When I see it, I think about Detroit. I think about the early 80s. I think about all the neighborhood cats walking around with the Adidas clothing, that typical early 80s Adidas fashion, looking like Run DMC, just chilling, walking the block. And, these are not the guys and gals that you want to be like. These are not the guys and gals that you want to emulate. However, you wanted their sneakers. You wanted their gym shoes. You wanted to rock their footwear because they was rocking the fresh footwear. And I tell you, and I remember my grandma used to say, stop trying to, chase people that got wearing these expensive gym shoes. These shoes, when they came out, we're talking about price. The Concords, when they originally came out, they were $75. Think about that time in the early 80s. We're talking about asking a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, whoever, to shell out $75 for a patent leather shoe. That was a lot to ask for. And a lot of us end up getting these shoes. We wore them on certain occasions. Some neighborhoods we didn't wear them to due to the fact that what I just mentioned. But I tell you, man, it's a beautiful shoe. All right, so let's talk about comfort. When we're talking about comfort, the Adidas Concord originally was designed as a basketball shoe. However, when it hit the neighborhoods in New York, in Baltimore, and Detroit, and all these other places, yeah, you got a pair for playing ball, but you got another pair to make you feel like you was 10 feet tall. That's a Run DMC note. And there's history with that line if you break down what I just said. This shoe, I tell you, it was very comfortable. It was a very comfortable shoe. The original Concord had a little more meat to it. This is a more slimmed down version, right? But the shoe is comfortable nonetheless. It doesn't feel tight in the insteps. The toe box allows your foot to breathe. The back of your heel, all the way down to where the collar of the shoe, the ankle, and everything. It's a nice feel. It's an early 80s Adidas feel. Now, this is a modern version. Again, this shoe is like 6 years old. I bought this in 2016, like I said, in Japan. So it's a little different from the one that came out in the early 80s. But nonetheless, the shoe was still comfortable. I don't know about playing ball in, because Damon ain't playing no ball in any of these old school shoes. As you can see with the toe box. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't want your toe box to crack, put a sock inside there. That'll keep the creases from increasing. It will decrease the crease. Phenomenal, y'all. Phenomenal. We talked about comfort. So we already talked about history. We talked about the specs. We talked about nostalgic memories. We talked about comfort. Let's go ahead and close the episode out. Again, just taking you guys down memory lane. I think in the next few gym shoe stories on a Thursday, we're going to go the Adidas route. I know in the past month, 2 months, it's been really Nike heavy, threw some Reeboks in there, threw some Pumas in there. So I'm going to start showing love to Adidas, because I got a freaking closet full of old school Adidas that I have talked about, and I repurposed those episodes, and I have some Adidas that I have not talked about. And what I do, I'll combine some of those Adidas I talked about in previous episodes and pit them against, almost like a versus against some of the Adidas that I haven't talked about, right? But I wanted today, usually I have two shoes I'm talking about. I wanted today to just be about the Adidas Concord. Revolutionary, the evolution of sneaker fashion in the early 80s. My Adidas. Shout out to Run DMC. Hey, appreciate you guys. This puts a bow on it and wraps up this episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Tomorrow's going to be a great, finally it's Friday. I'm going to talk about the movie, the iconic movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, White Line Fever. Going to talk about that movie tomorrow. Today's episode has been about the Adidas Concord, a 1980s classic shoe. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great Thursday. Be safe and sound. See you guys tomorrow for Finally It's Friday. Looking forward to you guys joining with me, hanging out. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. All the best. Godspeed.